for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Last week, we read Energy Island, which was all about this little island in Denmark that actually converted themselves to being completely renewable energy. So that was really fun. And the reason that we're always talking about energy is because I am actually from NREL, which is the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Now, we are located in Golden, Colorado, and I actually think most of my friends here today are from Colorado, but if you aren't from Colorado, if you want to go ahead and throw where you're from in the chat, that would be fun, because then we can see where everybody's from. Last week, we had some people joining us from Ohio, and I think we had some people joining us from Iowa, and I learned a little later that we had some people joining us from Arizona, so that's really cool that we are getting to share these lessons about renewable energy that we are learning here at NREL with kind of the whole country. So that's awesome. Now, you guys might not know what renewable energy is, so let me just tell you a little bit about it. Energy is what we use to get things like electricity or to run outside. And usually the way that we get this energy is if we are doing the energy, it's by eating food or drinking drinking milk and eating nutritious foods. That's how we get our energy. Energy from our house comes from things like burning coal, and we can power our car using like gasoline. And these are called fossil fuels. And these are what we call non-renewable energy sources. That means that eventually we could run out of them. But there's no way that we're going to run out of our need for electricity. So we have to figure out how can we make electricity better. And that's where renewable energy comes in. Renewable energy are things like the sun, which is also, that's the book that we read 2 weeks ago, was called Running on Sunshine. So we learned all about solar panels. And last week we learned all about the wind, which is a great renewable energy source, and things like water and hydropower. And we talked a little bit about how we can use those in combination with each other. So one of the big things that we at NREL do is science, and science comes from a couple different fields. Their major ones are physics, biology, and chemistry. And today, we're actually going to be talking about a chemistry topic. Now, chemistry is near and dear to my heart, as that is actually where I got my start. Even though I do education now, I started in a chemistry lab. And then I learned that I don't really enjoy chemistry labs that much, so I turned to education because it's just a lot more fun. But today we're going to be talking about matter, and the book we're going to be reading is called Matter by Andi Diehn. But before we start about matter, I want to give kind of a demonstration of what is matter. There's three major categories when we're talking about matter. And the first one is solid. Solids are things like this block. I could break this block, but it would still be made of this plastic. And I can't really change the shape of this block. The shape is set. So this is a solid. There's also things like liquids. Liquids are what are in this water bottle. So I've got my water bottle full of water, and you see that I can take my water bottle, and even though my cup here is a different shape, my water still fills it. Now I'm going to stop it right there so that we can talk about our third state of matter, which is gas. Now, a lot of you probably look at this cup and you're like, oh, she left the cup half empty. But really, this cup is still completely full. Even though it's half filled with liquid, the other half is filled with gas. Gas is all around us, and it fills up these nooks and crannies that we don't even think about. So while I'm going to enjoy my water while we read our book, a little bit later, the craft that we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be making animals out of gas, which is kind of cool. So let me get a sip of water, and then let's start our book. So this is Matter by Andi Diehn. If your friend looks sad, you might ask, what's the matter? Matter is something that can be wrong. So you can see her here, our little friend is kind of sad. When something is the matter, a good friend helps you feel better. Maybe they share a cupcake with you. That's what my good friends do. They share cupcakes. Maybe they stand on their head to make you laugh. Maybe they just sit close by and wait until you feel better. Have you ever heard someone say, that doesn't matter? What if you spilled your cup of water? Your teacher might say, that doesn't matter. What if you used your brother's toothbrush? Your brother might say, that doesn't matter, but probably not, and yuck. Matter is more than something that can be wrong or something that happens. Matter is much more. When scientists talk about matter, they're... Does somebody have a question? Oh, that's okay. When scientists talk about matter, they are talking about stuff that makes up almost everything in the world. Your dog is made of matter. That tree is made of matter. You are made of matter. I am made of matter. Matter is anything that takes up space and can be weighed. How do you weigh things? With a scale. So here's our dog. You can see our dog's getting into the water, and it's getting stared at by the two little rubber duckies, also made of matter. How much do you weigh? How much do your shoes weigh? How much does your dog weigh? How much does a tree weigh? Even though it might be hard to weigh a tree, we could do it. There's a couple different ways. One of the things that we know how to do is we actually know how to use something that's called density that tells us how much matter is in something, and we can use that to kind of work out how much something weighs, even if it seems unweighable, which is kind of cool. But what about air? Is air made up of matter? What happens when you blow air into a balloon? Well, let's try it really quickly. So here's a balloon, and you can see that it's pretty flat right now. But what if I put air into it? You can see that my balloon gets bigger. That's how we know that air takes up space. The balloon stretches bigger and bigger and bigger. The balloon might even pop. Because the balloon gets bigger when you blow air into it, you know that the air takes up space. So air is made of matter. And if I had a good enough scale, I could actually put that balloon on, and I would be able to see that what I blew into the balloon actually adds some weight to the balloon, which is kind of cool. What about juice, water, and milk? Are those things made of matter? When you pour juice into a cup, the cup is half full of juice, and it is heavier than an empty cup. You can see the juice takes up space, and when you drink the juice, your belly feels fuller. Even when you just drink water, you can see that your belly feels fuller. Many things are made of matter, but everything looks different. You look different from your dog. Your dog looks different from milk. Your milk looks different from steam that comes from a pot of boiling water. Matter can have many different shapes, sizes, and colors. Matter can be a solid, like our block, a liquid, like our water, or a gas, like the air that's all around us, or like the air that I blew into that balloon. Do you have an ice cube in your freezer? What happens when you leave it on the counter? It melts into a puddle of water. And if you leave that puddle of water on the counter long enough, it sort of looks like it disappears. It turns out it didn't disappear, it just turned into gas. Plasma is another state of matter. Have you ever watched a lightning storm from your window? Lightning is a plasma. You know what else is made of plasma? The sun and all of the stars. There's more plasma in the universe than there are solids, liquids, or gases. What are some things that are not made of matter? Look around you. Can you see something that doesn't take up space and can't be weighed? It's actually really hard to see things that aren't matter, but you can hear some things that aren't matter because you can hear my voice. And it turns out sound is an example of something that is not matter. It does not take up space, and it doesn't have mass. What about rainbows? There's no rainbow in the sky right now, but I can definitely see a rainbow, and it doesn't take up any space, and it doesn't have any mass. How can you see to read this book? Light. Does light take up space? If there's lots of light in the room, does that mean other stuff has to get shoved over to make enough space? Can you hold light in your hand? Can you put light on a scale and weigh it? How would you keep it all together so you could weigh it? Light is not made of matter. Light does not take up space and it can't be weighed. Heat is another example of something that is not made of matter. These are actually both examples of energy. Energy is the one thing that is not made of matter. And all of these are actually examples of different types of energy. So sound waves are a form of energy. Light is a form of energy. Heat is a form of energy. So energy is actually the thing that is not matter. Most things are made of matter. Your home, your classroom, your neighborhood are all filled with matter. Take a walk and you'll find matter all around you. The next time someone says, it doesn't matter, you can tell them, everything is matter. The end. So, like I said, this is actually a really interesting topic because even though we at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory are often talking about things that aren't matter because we're talking about energy, the way that we get energy is usually, in fact, from matter. So, for our activity today, what I thought would be really fun is if we made some animals out of gas. Now, you might be wondering how we're going to do that. And it's actually by using these balloons that we used a little bit earlier. So if you have your crafting supplies and you want to go get them, I'll give you a minute to go gather everything. I have balloons, tape, some paper straws, and I will be using a combination of tape and glue to put together my balloon animal. And just for fun, I have some googly eyes because I think I think googly eyes make everything better. So I'll give everybody a minute to gather their supplies, and then we will get making. So the way that we're going to start is I am going to use 2 balloons. I'm going to use one balloon as the body of my animal, and I'm going to use one balloon as the head of my animal. So I'm going to make my first balloon pretty big. I don't want to make it too big because I definitely don't want it to pop. That noise drives me crazy. But if you cannot blow up the balloon on yourself, know that you can ask your parents to help, and they would probably be happy to help. Your parents will probably also want to help you tie off your balloon. So you'll see that I've got a big one. That one's going to be the body of my animal. Now I'm going to do a smaller one. Just so I've got a head, and then blow it up to be a lot smaller. Now I'm actually going to use the 2 little ends of my balloon. So I'm going to make this guy be the nose of my animal, and I'm going to use this guy to help me put on a tail. So attaching your head to your body. The way that I have found to be the easiest is actually to just use tape. So I'm going to take my tape. I'm going to pull off kind of a big piece because I'm going to roll it so that it makes sort of a double-sided piece, just like this. So I've got a little circle. I'm going to put my tape on my head. I'm going to make sure that I've got the bottom, and I'm going to attach my head just like this. Now, one thing that could be helpful if you have a little bit more time when you're doing this later, or if you're doing this now but you've got a kid that's more patient, you can glue the head on, but what I recommend doing is actually putting the glue on and then setting it with tape so that the head kind of doesn't move while the glue dries. I liked using tape because it created kind of a little bobble effect, and I thought that was kind of fun. So just know you can use either tape or glue. If you don't have tape, or if you don't have glue, you can tape everything. If you have the combination, you do you. Next thing that I'm going to add are my legs. I've got my little straws here, so I'm going to try to cut them into somewhat even. I'm just going to eyeball it though because there's no need to measure. Gonna cut those in half. Whoop, I sent one flying. Now I'm gonna tape my legs onto my little guy. I made one of these last night and my husband thought my animal looked very goofy, which I did not appreciate. I thought my animal turned out pretty cute. So I'm just gonna tape these little legs on. You can tape them on wherever. Remember, this is your animal. It can be as creative as you want it to be. So we're gonna tape our legs on. So you'll see, I literally just taped them right on. They go a little bit below the balloon. That way I can stand my little guy up. Now I'm just gonna try to tape my legs on in the same location on the other side. This is the part that I really did not do a good job of last night, so my animal was a little lopsided, but that's okay. Like I said, it's creative. It's a little creative space. AJ asked me if it was a duck. I informed him it had 4 legs, and he was not impressed. So now I've got all my legs on my little creature. So now I can start decorating. Now I have a couple different things to decorate. I've got my handy dandy sticker pad. So if you don't have googly eyes, you could always use stickers to be the eyes. That would be really fun. I have these, there's a very funny collection of googly-eyed animals because it turns out I always think googly eyes are very funny. So I am gonna put a googly-eyed hippo on my little animal, and I'm gonna put a googly-eyed monkey. He's not a monkey, I apologize. He's an orangutan, which is in the ape family. He's not a monkey, he has no tail. So I'm gonna put those stickers on. So there's my little orangutan. Here's my hippo. Now, I'm gonna glue on my eyes. I did find that gluing on the eyes worked pretty well, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my glue. However, in true, you can tell I do education stuff. The only type of glue that I have at my house is in fact glitter glue. So we get a little glitter spread after this, which is totally fine. So I'm gonna glue on my eyeballs. You can be creative with this as you want. I'm gonna add eyeballs. You could take extra balloons and you could add ears to yours. I did realize that I somehow managed to not bring out my yarn, so I think I will not be adding a tail. But on my one last night, I added a tail on using yarn. So here's my little monster so far. We're looking good. We're looking good. And you can see that this animal is in fact made of gas because these balloons don't look like this until I blow them up, until I put air into them. So that's why I say that these are animals that are made of gas. Now, I don't want to limit you, so I'm gonna end my little creature right here. The eyeballs do tend to move until they dry, so you might wanna just kind of let him sit for a little bit until you start playing with him. But once everything's dry, you can bat him around. He'll fly a little bit, so it's kind of fun. But yeah, this is our animals out of gas. Does anybody have any questions for me? If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself to ask the question, or you can drop it in the chat so I can see it. Oh, also thank you. It is a cool coffee cup. Every chemist knows that a good beaker always works well. Oh, I like it. We've got somebody used a glove. I love it. That's awesome. So we were able to make, that is a cool monster. So it looks like that's Kira's monster. If you have also made yours, you can feel free to show it in your video. That would be cool. If you're making it later, I'm gonna drop my email in the chat. If you want to share your picture with me, that would be awesome. So there you go. There's my email. If you make one a little bit later and you want to send me a picture, that would be awesome. If you don't, that's also totally fine. Next week, we will be reading the book Solar City by Alan Drummond, and we will be making bingo cards that are all about things that are run by solar power. So I will make sure that so you guys can come prepared. I always like to use stickers and maybe googly eyes on everything. So whatever art supplies you have lying around, we can use. And then once we make our bingo cards together, you guys will actually be able to go on an adventure with your parents. Maybe just walk around your neighborhood and see if you can get SOLAR, because we're can't play solar bingo and have it spell out bingo. So we'll spell out solar, which is awesome. All right. Does anybody have any questions for me? Does anybody just want to say hi?
Megan.
Yeah,
really had fun.
Good. I'm so glad that you guys had fun. Come back next week. Next week's book is really cool.
We will.
That's awesome. Kira, that is a cool monster. I love it. Oh man, you guys are all making cool monsters. I love it. Mine just lost one of its eyeballs because I didn't let it dry very well. So I'll have to hold it on a little bit better.
Mine is a rooster.
Okay, there it is. Hey.
Bye.
Bye everybody. It was so good to see you again.